Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to install a cryptocurrency wallet on a Raspberry Pi 3B+. Let's get started. To kick things off, you will need a few items. First and foremost, you will need a Raspberry Pi 3B+. This is the Raspberry Pi that I will be using for the video. You could use a Raspberry Pi 2 or just a standard 3B. It's completely up to you. I'm choosing to use the 3B Plus because it is the most up-to-date Raspberry Pi, as well as the most powerful one currently on the market. You will also need some sort of case that does provide cooling. The Raspberry Pi is not the most powerful processor out there, and in regards to cryptocurrency wallets, a lot of them are very CPU heavy and memory heavy, and it tends to heat up the Pi quite a bit. Now you could use a case with a fan on it, however the fans are really small, and if they're running constantly 24/7 for a few weeks, some of them are prone to failure, and I'm a little hesitant to use them myself, so I recommend, for example, here, the Flirk case. It is my favorite case for the Raspberry Pi. It is a giant heatsink and it works very, very well. You will also need a power supply. So the power supply that I'm using is a 5-volt, 3-amp power supply to make sure it delivers enough power to the Pi. The Pi 3B Plus is a little more power hungry than the Pi 3B, and I would recommend 5 volts and 3 amps. You will also need a fairly fast memory card. So I have a micro SD card here. It's a SanDisk Ultra 64 GB class 10. And this is the exact memory card that I'm using. If you have a 1632, if you have a 128 is a little overkill. If you're just using this for a cryptocurrency wallet and that's it, then by all means, you don't need a large memory card. However, if you are using the Pi for other things as well, considering it will be running an operating system, then I would recommend some more memory. On top of that, if you do not have a micro SD or SD card reader in your computer, you will need something to flash the SD card with. And I've got this here. This is an Anchor. It's a micro SD and SD card reader to USB 3.0. So you just plug the micro SD card directly into that device and plug that into the USB slot in your computer and it reads it. And then you can directly flash the operating system on the micro SD card. Lastly, and this is an important part, you will need a spare USB key that you probably don't really plan on using for anything else because this will be a very, very heavy load on it and may wear it out prematurely. So I'm using a spare, I have a 16 gigabyte USB key. It's not very high quality. It's a piece of junk, but it is good enough for what I need it to use it for. So you will be using the the USB key here for additional memory. Recommended size 2 gigs and above. So I'm using a 16 gig, which is super overkill. I don't need it at all, but it was the only spare one that I had around that didn't matter if it gets used solely for this purpose. As always too, you will need some sort of monitor. You will need a mouse and keyboard, but any monitor that has HDMI support, any USB mouse and keyboard should work. The next step is to download the operating system. So I did try a few different operating systems on this. I tried Ubuntu Mate with great success. However, the operating system is a little heavy for the Pi. And I did try Kali just for fun, and that one was a headache to work with. I do recommend using Raspbian. It is the lightest operating system, but you will have to perform a few tweaks, which I will show you how to do. The version of Raspbian for the 3B Plus here is Raspbian Stretch with Desktop. You don't need the light version. I would recommend Raspbian Stretch with Desktop. You can download the torrent or download the zip. I'd recommend downloading the zip. Now once you have that, the next step is to download software to write the image to the micro SD card. If you have software on your computer already, then you're good to go. If not, I do recommend Etcher. So Etcher here you can pick up at, it's Balena. I don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's balena.io. I'll leave a link in the description. You can pick up a version of Etcher here. It's very quick, very easy, and very simple. So now I have Etcher installed, I have Raspbian downloaded. It's a total of 1.37 gigs for Raspbian, almost 1.4 gigs. And now the next thing to do is select the image, which I will do right here. It automatically selects the drive. Now this is, be careful here, make sure it's selecting the right drive. So you can change it. I've got the it's the only USB drive I have plugged in, so it's fairly easy to identify. I've got a 64 gig micro SD card, and the USB drive that I'm using is the Anchor micro SD reader. So if you do have multiple cards in, if you have a portable hard drive, just be sure that you're not selecting that one. Make sure you're selecting the right device. The next step here is to flash this. It does take a bit of time, so have patience. I would probably recommend just going away from your computer for a bit. You can multitask if you feel like it. This will take a bit of time. All right, so now I've plugged the memory card into the Raspberry Pi and booted the Raspberry Pi up. So here you can set, and this is completely optional, you can set your country and time zone here. I'm going to do that for me anyway, because I will be using this as a regular operating system. So I'll switch my time zone to Toronto here. Use US keyboard, and then next. So once you set your time zone and country, the next step is to set a password. I do recommend keeping this a strong password, as it will be basically the root user password to your device. So keep it strong and also commit it to memory because you will need it later on. So it says searching for Wi-Fi networks. I'm going to skip that because I do have my Raspberry Pi hardwired. Now you can see that just in the top right of the screen here beside the Bluetooth icon. If you have Wi-Fi only, that's where you would put in the Wi-Fi network username and password. However, I would recommend using hardwired just for the initial setup because it makes life a lot easier. So at this point, I'm going to click Next to have it update the software. So what's going to happen here is it's going to check for updates, it's going to download and apply the updates, and then ask for a reboot. Now the time it takes to download and install the updates will vary based on your location, internet speed, and so on and so forth. So have patience here. Don't rush this, and definitely don't power off the Raspberry Pi during this process. The updates have completed. It says my system here is up to date. I'll click OK. And now is the option to reboot the Pi. And here I will 100% recommend reboot your Pi. All right, now there are a few things to do in order to prep your system for the cryptocurrency wallet. The first thing that I'm going to do is type in sudo apt-get update. Once that's done, the next step is to do sudo apt-get install gparted. Gparted is a partitioning utility that you can use, and I do recommend doing this so that you can set up a USB stick as additional RAM and memory for your computer. If you don't do this, chances are you're going to run into issues with whatever cryptocurrency wallet you are using. So this doesn't take very long. It's asking me here to do an additional 12.3 megabytes of disk space, so I'm going to obviously say yes. It's not very big. It does not take long at all. And now that's done. And there's one more that I'm going to add here. It's sudo apt-get install gedit. And this program will be used to edit the fstab file, which will permanently mount each time you reboot your Raspberry Pi. It'll use that USB key as memory right out of the gate. So you don't have to keep enabling the USB as a swap drive. Per se, so I'll show you how to do that after we install gedit. So you install gedit, it's not very big at all, 74.5 megabytes. I'm going to say yes to this and have it install. Now I'm going to go into gparted, so I'll go down into preferences, gparted. It's going to ask for my password. As you remember when we set up the Pi, this is the password that you will use now. Okay, gparted's up and running. It's pretty easy here. If your USB stick is plugged in, it's just a menu drop down here to switch over to it. So my file system is already linux-swap. You just have to right click on your USB stick here, right click, format to, and there's a bunch of different options. You want to select Linux-swap and make sure your full USB storage that you have is dedicated to Linux-swap. Once you formatted the stick, you go to this option here called swap on. And just to show how it works, I'm going to open up a terminal here. And you can do this too to test to see if it works. So I'm going to hit, the command I'm using is top, and this shows everything that's running right now. So you can see the total memory, the total swap. If I right click here and click swap on, you can now see that swap boosted. So all I did is right click, swap on, you can do swap off, and you can see the difference in size that you have for additional memory. So I would definitely recommend keeping this as swap on. And then that way you will be sure not to run out of memory when you are running your cryptocurrency wallet. And now to make this permanent, so every time you plug in your Raspberry Pi or power it on or reboot it, your USB memory stick is automatically recognized as swap. You don't have to enable it each time. You want to go to a terminal window, type in sudo gedit space etc and then fstab. Open that up and it opens up a window just like this. Now there are two steps here. The first step, and I'll put this down in the description of exactly what you need to type, but you will need to set it up. Copy and paste this down. Copy and paste it down from the description in this video. And it'll say UUID equals, and then you'll see non-swap SW00. So after the equal sign, this is where you find the information from your USB stick. If you right click, click information, and see this UUID number here, highlight it, make sure you get the whole thing, copy it, and then paste it right after the equal sign, and it'll look like this. Now once you click save and you reboot the Raspberry Pi, every time you do this, every time you reboot the Pi, it'll automatically boot up your USB stick as swap memory. So the next step here is to download your cryptocurrency wallet of choice. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to download my favorite cryptocurrency wallet, Trollcoin. Now, as you can see here, this one is available at trollcoin.com/downloads, and there are different versions here. So you can see Windows Wallet, Mac Wallet, Windows Daemon, and Trollcoin version 2.1 source. And that's the actual one I'm going to click here as it's for Linux. So the Raspberry Pi Raspbian that we're running right now is a Linux build. So if you are searching for a cryptocurrency wallet, some may have a Raspberry Pi specific wallet already. If they don't, check out the Linux build, and that's the one to use. For here, this is on GitHub. I click clone or download. So obviously you want to download the zip file of this. So this setup will probably be different depending on the wallet that you're using. This wallet in particular, it comes in a zip file, and once I'm in here, there are instructions on what to do. The README is also available on GitHub, so I can just take a quick look here. There are two versions of this wallet, the Qt5 Linux wallet and the terminal-based wallet. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to use the Qt5, so it's the GUI, you can see it as opposed to just strictly terminal based. So there are dependencies that you do need to install in order to compile and run the wallet. So I'm just going to copy those. I'm going to open a terminal window here and just paste them in and let it install. So instead of typing everything out, I highly recommend copying and pasting. It's a lot easier to do, and it'll save you a lot of time. And this takes a little bit of time. It depends on the wallet that you're using, the dependencies that are required. Each wallet may be different. Once all of these dependencies have installed, this is a step that may be universal for a lot of wallets. And that is a compatibility issue on the Raspberry Pi 3B+. So I'm going to type a command here, and I'm going to leave this step as well in the description of this video. But if you do sudo apt-get remove libssl-dev, we want to remove this because we want to install the non-stretch version. So we want to install the Jessie version for compatibility with the 3B Plus, with Raspbian, with everything we've just done. It's installed the stretch version, which we do not want. The next step here is to point the source list to Jessie and not to stretch. So it's sudo space nano /etc/apt/sources.list. Once you've typed that in, hit enter, and it will bring you up to a menu that looks like this. Now on this line, you can see stretch. So I'm going to change that and type in JESSIE. And then the line down here, I'm going to do the exact same thing and type in JESSIE. And that switches it over to Jessie instead of stretch. Now you hit Control, then X, and it says Save Modified Buffer. Press Y. Then it'll say file name to write. Yes, I want to overwrite the file, so hit enter there. And if you want, you can type the exact same command in again and take a look at the file just to see if your changes did save. Now the next step, once you've done that, is sudo apt-get update, which should not take very long at all. And now that's done, we are going to install the Jessie version of libssl-dev, which we just uninstalled earlier. So we uninstalled it, repointed it from stretch to Jessie, and now we will reinstall it. So we will do sudo apt-get install libssl-dev. Hit enter. This does not take very long to do it all either. And this is now replacing the previous stretch version with the Jessie version, and will also more than likely prevent any compiling issues with your wallet. And to prevent any further issues, you can type in sudo apt mark hold libssl-dev. And what that does is that puts it on hold and prevents it from updating if you repoint back to stretch. For the purposes of this video, I am going to repoint us back to stretch to prevent any other issues with updating. So you just have to hit the up arrow and you can get back into the previous things that you had typed. So I'm going to go back in here, replace Jessie with stretch. In both places. Control X. Yes, I want to save it, and enter to save it to the exact same thing. Now if I follow the instructions based in the README for the Qt5, my next step is to use this QMake command. So in order to do that, I have to be in the Trollcoin folder directory. The easiest way to do this is to open the folder, copy this link here, go into your terminal window. You can type in cd space and then just paste the link. There are other ways to do this. I just like to do it this way, and that's why I'm showing you guys. So just enter there. I'm at the directory I need to. I'll highlight this QMake. You don't need to highlight the $sign. That's just there for informational purposes. And I'll paste this QMake command here. I'll hit enter. It'll proceed This takes a little bit of time. Once it's done, now I type in the command called make. And this make command will take a while, depending on the wallet. This Trollcoin wallet takes a bit of time to compile. And if you run into issues here, you will have to troubleshoot. So there are chances that your libssl-dev is running the stretch version and not the Jessie version. And the easiest way to say that is you'll see a cbignum error. There may be an error with your level DB. It all depends on what you're running, what you're trying to install. So different OSs will have different issues potentially. So with this specific OS with Raspbian on the Pi 3B Plus running with the Trollcoin wallet here, there should be no more issues. So now it's finished making the file. It took quite a bit of time to compile everything here, and we're pretty much done. So if I head over into Trollcoin Master, I can see the Trollcoin icon. I'm going to open this and see if the wallet opens. So double clicking it here, it says the file Trollcoin is executable. Do you want to execute it? Execute. And just like that, the Trollcoin wallet is up and running. So it is 2 years and 49 weeks behind. You can see it right there, synchronizing with the network. It's going to take some time. It'll probably take 5, maybe even 7 days running 24/7 on the Raspberry Pi to basically catch up, to download the blockchain to catch up. Now, I will say this is why I recommend a kind of heat dissipating case. So I'm using the Flirk case because the Raspberry Pi essentially will be running 24/7 while it's acting as a wallet. If you are using a different cryptocurrency, the steps will be very similar. However, each wallet may have its own differences. Anyways, that's all I've got for today. If you like my video, leave a like. If you didn't like my video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button. Check out my other videos. Thank you, everyone. Take care.